I'm on the phone with Charles Wyke-Smith, author and interim CEO at Publish. Charles, good afternoon, East Coast time, and thanks for agreeing to the interview.
No, my pleasure. Always good to speak with you, Bill.
Yeah, good. Look out at the crystal ball. You've an author, written many books on styling with CSS, and I know you're a JavaScript person and have been writing about that environment as well. So look at the crystal ball for us. What do you see trend-wise for 2014, and what would you like web professionals to know?
Well, I think the big thing when we're seeing it right now is this shift to applications that kind of have two-way binding associated with them, and you're seeing this in front-end frameworks like Angular, Ember, Backbone, and with NodeJS, which is a JavaScript server and middleware that runs on the web server. So and as well as that, there are now these JSON, which is JavaScript object notation databases. So we're seeing a move even away from SQL databases to databases that store data in the JSON format, which is the format that JavaScript builds its objects in. So literally, you're pulling something from the database, you're passing it through JavaScript middleware and directly into the browser, where the browser can manipulate that data and display it. And with this two-way binding, what happens is when that data model on the back end gets updated, the UI is automatically updated. Or if the user changes information on the front end, that is instantly reflected in the model. And so there's this very smooth connection. And as a developer, there's less and less work to do with maintaining the DOM and moving data back and forth through all the different formats to achieve your results. So, I mean, looking forward, I really think that is going to dominate as the development model. And already we're seeing companies like Uber, VMware, eBay, all these companies that require real-time data connection are moving to Node.js and the similar kind of on the front end applications that I mentioned. And I've been doing a lot of work with Angular myself, and it is just a huge time saver compared with, say, using jQuery, where you're constantly trying to select and modify the DOM, whereas with when you set up your Angular controllers, they are directly connected to those UI components. And so when the model changes, the controller is simply instantly updating it. Imagine a messaging service where I type a message and everybody who's out on that service instantly gets that pushed to them. There's something called Socket.io, which augments Node.js and enables this push to users. So very much more push-based, real-time, two-way data binding. These are all trends that are really starting to get firmly established now, and I think they're going to dominate going forward in the way that applications are built in the coming years.
Thank you for that. Those are definitely pearls on trends for sure. We're seeing a lot of demand for specialization. I know you and I have talked about this in the past, the role and responsibility of a designer versus a developer. And you brought up the topic of developer here, and I know the context of what you meant it, but I'm curious to know how much of what you just said trend-wise is relevant for the web designer, the traditional web designer.
Well, I think that the roles are certainly getting blurred, and I think to be a successful web designer in this day and age, you certainly need to be able to do HTML, CSS, and at least some jQuery. And I strongly advise people to take a look, who are designers, to take a look at some of the templating, templating tools like Underscore and Handlebars that allow you to receive data into the UI and quickly loop through it to, say, write out a list of usernames, right? So you can set up one cycle of the loop and put the handlebar variable in, and as that data arrives and there'll be 50 names in it, that loop will automatically run 50 times and write that on the screen for you. So I think the onus on the designer now is to take ownership of the front end, whatever that means. I still think that, the complexities of security, concurrency, scaling, that's always going to require developers who are trained in computer science and the rest of the high-level skills that are required there. But I think that companies are looking to designers now to have an understanding of these technologies. Like I say, certainly CSS and HTML. And of course, HTML is now much more complex. It's not just a markup language. It's got a whole API, and you can store data locally, and you can, run video and audio and all those kind of things directly with HTML in the browser. So HTML5 is just a huge, it's almost turned, I don't want to say it's turned HTML into a programming language, but it's certainly dramatically expanded its capabilities. And, in CSS, just to finish that thought, is, these CSS frameworks, they're particularly less seems to have got, there is SAS with Compass as well, but I think less is the one that has really started to get a lot of traction and allows you to, say, create variables for your colors. So you can establish 5 color variables, and then you use those instead of having to restate the same colors over and over again in your CSS and then have to update them in 1,000 places if you make a change, right? So even the things that were kind of traditional designer tools are taking on more of a programming aspect to them, and I encourage any designer to start to look at things like, Angular, like handlebars for templating, like less for CSS manipulation, because that's what people are looking to their designers now. The people who are running startups and companies these days, the designers are expected to take ownership of the UI, and I think that is a changing trend.
Give us a rundown. How's things going with Publish, and what is Publish all about?
Publish is the startup that I got involved with after I left People Matter in May of last year. And we're trying to solve the problem for independent authors, which is, in this day and age, anybody can publish a book. It's very easy to take, you can even take 10 blog articles and make them into an ebook and put them up on Amazon and sell them. Though there are many professional authors or would-be professional independent authors who are writing full-length novels and other types of books. They're putting that material on Amazon. They don't need to go through an agent anymore. And the usual, chain of publishers and into bookstores, they can put their work right on the web. But how do you get discovered is the big question. So we're helping them by creating something called book bubbles within our platform, so they can load that ebook into Publish, and then they can create these bubbles, which are an extract of the book and a little bit of a story behind the story that they can add to engage the reader. And it also pulls in all of the information they added during sign up about themselves and the book. So you get their bio, you get the synopsis of the book, you get links to Amazon to buy it, and all of that gets built into a single attractive web page that they can then push out and link to on Facebook and LinkedIn and other sites. You can readily push links to the bubble out to the social sites and publish themselves. Send those links out to help those readers, get some traction.
Thank you for that. I know that quite a few of the listeners of this podcast would be extremely interested in that, and they can find more information on publish.com.
That's right. I mean, we're at an early stage. It's in a beta. We have book bubbles up there, and we continue to, add to that. Getting the kind of funding we need to really make it explode is a long road, as anybody who's tried to raise funding will know. But we continue to build it out, and we're actually staging a conference here in Charleston in April called a conference specifically for independent authors, and we have some big names from the publishing industry joining us to be part of that event. It's going to be the inaugural annual event, we hope. So you might also want to check out pubsmartcon.com on the web too, and learn a bit about that conference that we're putting on too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a trend in its own right. It's definitely sound advice. Well, Charles, we certainly appreciate all that you do and have done for those in the web profession, all of your insights and sharing your knowledge to others. We appreciate that and most definitely your time today.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Always a pleasure talking to you. Always willing to do it again.